Hi, this is Jenny Kassan. I am the queen of getting your business funded and doing it on your own terms. And today I want to talk about something a little bit different actually from what I usually talk about. It has to do with my role as a city council member in the city of Fremont, California. So I was elected back in November, and so I've been on the council since January, so just not too long. I'm still learning what it means to be a city council member. And one thing that we can do as city council members, if there's an issue we really care about, we can make a referral. And a referral means that we bring the item is brought before the whole council, and then the council can decide whether to move forward on that issue. So I made my first referral last week, and what I made a referral about has to do with socially responsible investing. So, in my day job, which is totally separate from my role as a city council member, but, obviously I'm still me, so I'm thinking about similar things. I think it's really, really important what we do with our money, not just where we spend it, but also where we invest it. And here I am on a city council, and I'm in charge of how we invest hundreds of millions of dollars. So I'm very interested, how are we investing that money? Are we using our money that we are investing for good? Is our money doing good in the world, or is it doing bad in the world? So I started looking into this for the city of Fremont, and I learned a lot. So first of all, what I found out, and many of you may know this, but cities, especially in California, I imagine it's probably true in many cities, but especially in California, cities are very, very restricted on what they're even allowed to invest in. They have to invest in what's considered like very low risk securities. So for example, definitely they're going to be investing in like US Treasury bonds, things like that. But they do have the ability to invest in companies, not in stock of companies, but in debt of companies. So basically corporate bonds. And so I was super curious, what do we invest in? What companies are we investing in? What companies are we lending our money to? Because that's basically what a corporate bond is. We're lending money to these companies. So I have a list here of where some of our corporate notes are being held. Who owes us money right now? The Home Depot, Walt Disney Corporation, JP Morgan Chase, Wells Fargo, Caterpillar, PepsiCo, Microsoft, Apple, Walmart, Deere and Company, Texas Instruments. So those are some of the companies that we as a city invest our hundreds of millions of dollars in. And so we don't use any screening criteria with one exception. So last year in 2018, before I was on the council voted to say we don't want to invest in any fossil fuel companies because we don't want to invest our money in companies that are contributing to global warming. So the city adopted a resolution to divest from any fossil fuel investments. So I made a referral to see if we might want to take it farther and ask our asset manager, the company that manages our money, to use some more criteria about how we invest to make sure that the companies we're investing in are good actors in the world. So there's something called ESG. ESG, it stands for Environmental, Social, and Governance Factors. And these are factors that money managers can use to evaluate investment opportunities. And there's lots of different criteria under those categories. You can look up different examples of ESG investing. It's also called SRI investing, sustainable responsible investing. And there's so many different ways to do it. And of course, as a city, because we are so restricted in what we're allowed to invest in, there's only so many choices we have about what we can invest in, but we can definitely say that we want to only invest in companies that are doing well on certain ESG criteria. So an example of an environmental ESG criteria would be like they haven't gotten in trouble for polluting, or they don't use too much water. They don't waste water. So those would be some examples of the E. The S for social would be that they have good workplace practices, they have good labor relations, that there's good workplace safety. And then the G, corporate governance, could be things like, do they have an independent committee that sets the CEO's pay? Or, you know, are there certain resolutions that shareholders are allowed to vote on that maybe they wouldn't normally be able to vote on? Or maybe they, you know, hire an independent auditor. So good practices that are all about transparency, you know, making sure there's no conflicts of interest, things like that. So there are companies out there that will rate corporations, big corporate, you know, they don't rate every company. Obviously, like they're not going to rate the, you know, mom and pop shop down the street on these things. But if you're a big, giant multinational corporation, someone's probably rating you on these factors. And so I brought a referral to council to ask if we might want to consider having the asset manager that we use to manage our investments include some ESG factors when making our investment decisions. And I also asked that we include gender. I think gender equality is a really important part of investment decisions that can really have a positive impact if we look at supporting companies that treat women well. Maybe have women on their boards, you know, maybe have good practices in terms of making sure that harassment isn't happening, things like that. So the council did vote unanimously to support my referral to look into that. We're going to have a presentation from our asset manager about what that would look like. But I thought there was something really interesting about the whole process. And so the guy who manages the money for our city, he's our financial director, he said that he wasn't sure there would be a huge impact on the companies we end up investing in because we are required to only invest in super high quality businesses, in the sense of businesses that are likely to not default on their debt to us. So, you know, businesses that are very well rated in terms of risk. And he said there's a very, very high correlation between those businesses and businesses that are going to do really well on ESG factors. So I thought that was really interesting. I had definitely read many, many studies and articles that said that the better a business rates on ESG factors, the better an investment it is, the better a return it provides, the less risky it is. And that makes sense to me. You know, if you're treating your workers well, if you're not getting in trouble with the environmental regulators, you know, if there's some independent oversight of how you're running your business, that's all going to make your business more successful and more likely to survive over the long run. Maybe in the short run, you'll make a ton of money, but eventually it's all going to fall apart. We've seen many examples of that, right? So, so it was yet one more piece of data that supports that idea that the most socially responsible businesses also happen to be the businesses that perform the best. So that was interesting to hear. So the good news is we may already be investing in highly rated companies when it comes to environmental, social, and governance factors. But, you know, I would love for us to take a stand as a city and say we are really committed to this and we're willing to put the extra effort into making sure that that's true and not just say, oh, I assume that's probably true. Now, I will say that those companies that I listed, Home Depot, Walt Disney, JP Morgan Chase, Wells Fargo, PepsiCo, Microsoft, those aren't necessarily my idea of the most wonderful things for us to be investing in. I would so much rather that we invest our money in local businesses in our city, because that would keep our wealth local. These companies, even though they may be on the better, they might be a little bit more socially responsible compared to many other corporations. Many of those companies are doing bad things in the world, things that I don't support and that many people in our city don't support. So I do wish we could change the law so that we could invest in our own community and businesses that are really doing good. But I understand, you know, there's some really strict rules to make sure that the money that we have is invested in things that are considered fairly low risk. That's an important part of being a steward of money for a city. because I'll tell you, there's a lot of expensive things that need to happen when you're running a city. So anyway, I just wanted to share that. It's sort of different from what I usually share because, you know, it's really not related to my work of helping entrepreneurs raise money or helping investors invest in small businesses, but it's just a different perspective on that whole world of investing our money in a way that's really going to benefit the planet and the people of our world. So I would love to hear your thoughts about this. Have you ever thought about where the city you live in, how does it invest its money? Because it's a lot of money. You know, municipalities and states control many, many billions of dollars. So it might be something you want to ask your city council member about or your state representative. All right, I will see you next week.